In 2016, it was Russia. Now heading into 2020, it's Ukraine with the potential to interfere in an American election on behalf of Donald Trump, with one major difference. This time, Trump admits to reaching out to a fellow world leader for help.
The conversation I had was largely congratulatory, was largely corruption, all of the corruption taking place, was largely the fact that we don't want our people, like Vice President Biden has done, creating to the corruption already in the Ukraine.
As information trickles out about a still-secret whistleblower complaint against the president, his comments seem to say guilty as charged of pressuring the president of Ukraine during a phone call in July, by the way, the day after Mueller testified before Congress, to investigate former Vice President Joe Biden over his son Hunter's work in the country, all while U.S. military aid was still pending.
Trump's doing this because he knows I'll beat him like a drum, and he's using the abuse of power and every element of the presidency to try to do something to smear me. Trump deserves to be investigated.
Now, for some Democrats, it's ground for impeachment. Steve Cohen, a member of the House Judiciary Committee, told the Washington Post, quote, "We back off everything. We've been very weak." And his fellow Democrat, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, agrees. She tweeted, "It is one thing for a sitting president to break the law. It's another to let him. The integrity of our democracy isn't threatened when a president breaks the law. It's threatened when we do nothing about it. The GOP's silence and refusal to act shouldn't be a surprise. Ours is." So, is this that moment where Trump could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and get away with it? Or is this the shot heard around D.C. that will generate an impeachment inquiry into the president? Joining me to discuss are LaTosha Brown. She's a political organizer, co-founder of Black Voters Matter Fund, and a fellow at Harvard's Kennedy School of Politics. Good to see you again, LaTosha.
Good to be here.
Rufus Gifford is former U.S. ambassador to Denmark for Barack Obama and former finance director for the president, that president's re-election campaign. Rufus, it's good to see you.
Great to be back.
As I said a minute ago, unlike the Russia probe, here Trump and his TV lawyer, as he's called, Rudy Giuliani, are admitting to actively seeking out foreign assistance and getting damaging information on a potential opponent. I am told you heretofore have opposed impeachment.
I have.
Is this changed your mind?
I think so, and I think the reason why is really quite simple. I think the political stakes regarding impeachment, I think Democrats potentially have something to lose here. But when you look at what is happening, when you look at the phone call with what we assume happened on the phone call with the president of Ukraine,
he admits
it seems to, yeah, that this steps over a line that we've really never seen before, an unprecedented line in American history. So for me, for Democrats, this is an opportunity to put country before party. So regardless of how Nancy Pelosi is talking to those 40 Democrats who won in those purple districts in 2018, that's what we keep talking about. Frankly, I don't think this matters anymore, that this is on Americans what's happening, and I think we just have got to start that ball rolling.
You buying this analysis, LaTosha?
I am. I'm actually glad that he's at that point. I've been at that point. I think what happens is that we keep drawing this line further and further. Like, well, if he just does this, if he does, I think that he's been consistent at showing that he has no interest in the best interest of people in this country.
That's right.
That he is willing, even in terms of what he did with Russia. Like, if you are running a campaign and you make a statement for Russia to investigate your opponent, there's no loyalty in that. And so I think we've got to look at this pattern. He's been quite consistent, you know, from running in the office and to being in office and using and abusing his power. So I think this is beyond about what we think about Trump or the election. This is really about how solid is democracy going to be in America and
how solid the Democratic Party is going to be.
That's
People
right.
like Jared Huffman from California say we're verging on tragic fecklessness, meaning his party. Adam Schiff, who's an Intelligence Committee chair, who's pretty much been on Pelosi's side, had this to say about why he may be changing his mind. Here's Schiff.
I have been very reluctant to go down the path of impeachment. But if the president is essentially withholding military aid at the same time that he is trying to browbeat a foreign leader into doing something illicit, that is providing dirt on his opponent during a presidential campaign, then that may be the only remedy that is co-equal to the evil that conduct represents.
You can't get all the words out there. But let's assume the president didn't. And he says he didn't on the phone call he said this afternoon. He said, and we don't know this yet, he said he didn't explicitly say he was going to withhold military aid, even though earlier in the day he seemed to preemptively suggest it would have been okay if he did. Even if he didn't, when you're the most powerful country in the world and there's $250 million hanging in the balance so you can fight off Russian-backed separatists, that's implicit, if not explicit, is it not?
Without a doubt, I think so. I mean, you have to understand the power dynamic on a call like that. The Ukrainians need something from us. And Trump is essentially, at that time at least, holding that aid hostage. And over the course of this phone call, we know he said at least 8 times you need to investigate Joe Biden or his son, which there is no evidence, zero evidence that they did anything wrong.
So what is Nancy Pelosi missing? Almost everybody, even her detractors, even Seth Moulton on the North Shore, who took a lot of heat for suggesting she had to go, even he would say, I think she's one of the most strategic, talented speakers ever. What is she missing in the case against Donald Trump?
I think we're missing the power of people in this country. We've gotten so partisan that we're looking at how do the parties maintain power instead of really looking at what can happen and what will happen in this election, particularly when you're holding people accountable. And the one piece that I want to raise that we're not talking a lot about is the fact that there was a whistleblower, right? And the entire point of having a whistleblower is to have some protection so that people can actually come forward when there's government corruption. Here it is at the Department of Justice. Here it is that we're not protecting the very thing that was designed to protect us in governance.
Yeah, can I just speak to that for a second? Yeah. This is what Pelosi seems to be talking about. She said in a letter to the Democratic caucus, if the administration persists in blocking this whistleblower from disclosing to Congress serious possible breach of constitutional duties by the president, they will be entering a grave new chapter of lawlessness, which will take us into a whole new stage of investigation. Again, it seems to be euphemisms. To me, despite what you said, LaTosha, the issue is not just the whistleblower. The issue are the acts which the President of the United States admits that he has done, whistleblower or no whistleblower. No?
Absolutely. Listen, I am of the opinion that the Constitution of the United States is one of the greatest documents ever written, at least in modern times. But never before in American history has it been tested the way it's being tested. Because to me, he is, to LaTosha's point, on the these whistleblower protections, these are constitutional protections at their very nature. And so then he is testing that. And so I think this is why, in essence, impeachment has to go forward right now, because these are the systems that were set up by our founders. Now, on the political side, really quickly, the reason why, in my mind, Nancy Pelosi doesn't move forward with impeachment is that she knows the only way to get Donald Trump out of office is to win on November 3rd, 2020.
Right. But let's assume she's convinced that she can't get Donald Trump out of office. She's convinced that other than Mitt Romney with a sort of a half-assed statement, virtually no Republican senators are saying anything critical. Is that enough reason not to act? Because it seems to me, as a non-constitutional expert, that if you don't move when there's a clear constitutional violation, what you're saying to the president is, you can do whatever the hell you please. We're not going to do anything about it.
Absolutely.
He did this the day after Mueller's testimony concluded. Talk about chutzpah.
Well, without a doubt, to me, he is actually daring Congress.
That's right.
I think that's true, too.
It seems to be, at least. And
it's been his pattern all along.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
He has just gained more and more power. If I can push this envelope, I'll push it a little further. We're really in dangerous water.
You know, if people were to listen to this conversation and hear nothing else, they'd say, well, the Democrats are about to act and finally lose their wishy-washiness after that embarrassment of the Lewandowski hearing last week. But I don't know if you heard, Nancy Pelosi's latest is we need a law to say a president, a sitting president, can be indicted. And my response to that is, one, we don't have a law that says he can't. We just have a memorandum in the Department of Justice. And two, the incredible irony in it to me is, and you suggested this before, Nancy Pelosi won't proceed on impeachment because she doesn't have the votes in the Senate, but she'll proceed on a bill to be able to indict a sitting president when she doesn't have the votes in the Senate, which sounds to me it's just like delay, delay, delay in the hopes that nothing happens. Is that an unfair characterization?
I actually share your belief around that. I think that's why it's really important that we have to keep talking about this, and we have to push. We've got those of us that are doing work on the ground. We've got to push the party to step up, that there are some things that are at stake right now.
Can I talk about your former life just for a second? I hadn't thought about this till a second ago. Rudy Giuliani, who I called his TV lawyer, his personal lawyer, correct me if I'm wrong, is sent over to have a discussion by the State Department? Is that correct?
It doesn't. I only know the media reports on this. That seems
Does that ever happen?
incredibly odd. Certainly not that I am aware of. You can't have a private citizen do American bidding. So in essence, you have to be a government employee or at least a government contract affiliated with the U.S. government officially to have those kinds of conversations. So to me, it's entirely unprecedented. But let's be clear, so much about this administration is unprecedented. So
let's end where we began, if we can. Let's assume I had a crystal ball here.
Yeah.
And I said to you, oops, Nancy Pelosi's right. If impeachment begins over the acts of this president, Donald Trump will be reelected in 2020. What should Congress do?
Listen, God, it's a tough one. Because, listen, I am a person who is devoting my life right now to make sure that there is somebody else sworn in as president on January 20th, 2021.
Well, you've devoted your professional life to the Constitution, though, too.
That's true, exactly. And that's the thing. And I think right now you absolutely have to stand for something here. And you've got to stand for the Constitution.
Even if there's a risk.
I think that there is an inherent risk here, but I think the risk of doing nothing is almost worse because
Absolutely.
I think, as LaTosha is also saying, that he will keep pushing. He will keep pushing. He's not done with the president of Ukraine. This will happen over and over and over again. And God forbid what happens in the what's going to happen in the second term? Who knows?
So 15 seconds. You agree? Take the risk.
I agree. I think you take the risk. I think more than anything, you stand on principle and integrity. Yeah. And if America is to be true to its beliefs around democracy, we've got to stand. We need to see bold leadership to stand on integrity around this and protect the interests.
And get Republicans in Congress on the record that they accept a president of the United States saying to a foreign leader, investigate my political opponent. So let's get congressional Republicans on the record for that.
Well, now we got to go. Ambassador, it's good to see you. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. LaTosha, great to see you.